shadows of the Golden Gate. A story of homelessness in San Francisco. San Francisco, a city where innovation meets tradition, where the Golden Gate Bridge stands as a symbol of possibility, and where tech giants have transformed humble garages into billion-dollar empires. The rolling hills are dotted with Victorian homes painted in pastel colors, while cable cars climb steep streets, carrying tourists eager to capture the perfect photograph. This is the San Francisco of postcards and dreams. But walk just a few blocks from the gleaming corporate headquarters and upscale boutiques, and you'll discover another San Francisco entirely. One where the fog that rolls in from the Pacific Ocean doesn't just bring mist. It brings a bone-chilling cold that seeps through worn clothing and cardboard shelters. Where the steep hills that charm visitors become treacherous terrain for those carrying everything they own in a shopping cart or backpack. In the doorways of closed shops, beneath highway overpasses, and in the corners of public parks, thousands call the streets their home. San Francisco, the city of innovation and prosperity, is also home to one of the nation's most visible homelessness crises. And this is where our story unfolds, in a city where fortunes are made overnight, yet so many struggle to find even a single night's shelter. When dawn breaks over San Francisco Bay, most residents are still wrapped in warm blankets in their homes. But for others, the day begins before the first light touches the water. Along Market Street, figures emerge from makeshift shelters constructed from tarps and shopping carts. The morning routine is simple yet heartbreaking. Fold the blankets that provided meager warmth, pack belongings into worn bags, and prepare for another day of survival. There's Maria, a woman in her 50s who once worked as a house cleaner in the Mission District. She sits on a piece of cardboard, carefully arranging her possessions, a worn Bible, a photograph of her children, and a small stuffed animal that brings comfort in the darkest hours. She speaks softly of better days, when she had keys to an apartment and a routine that included morning coffee at her kitchen table. Near the Civic Center, a group of men huddle around a small fire they've built in a metal trash can. One of them, Robert, tells anyone who will listen about his time working construction before an injury ended his career. His calloused hands warm over the flames as he explains how quickly life can change. One day, you're building the city, he says, and the next day, the city has no place for you. Under the freeway overpass, entire communities have formed. Tents line the sidewalks in organized rows, creating neighborhoods that exist in the shadows of rushing traffic above. Children play between the structures, while their parents try to maintain some semblance of normal life. A woman named Sarah keeps a small garden in plastic containers, growing herbs and vegetables, a desperate attempt to create beauty and sustenance in an environment of concrete and despair. This is the San Francisco that doesn't appear in travel brochures. A city where some of its residents watch the sunrise not from apartment windows, but from sleeping bags on cold pavement, where the sound of the morning commute mingles with the quiet conversations of those who have nowhere to commute to. The question that haunts anyone witnessing this reality is simple yet complex. How did we get here? How does a city known for its progressive values and enormous wealth simultaneously house such widespread homelessness? San Francisco's housing crisis didn't happen overnight. The tech boom of the past 2 decades brought unprecedented prosperity to the region, but it also brought an explosion in housing costs that pushed longtime residents to the breaking point. A studio apartment that once rented for a few $100s now commands thousands per month. Even people with good jobs, teachers, nurses, service workers, find themselves priced out of the city they've called home for generations. The city's geography works against it. Surrounded on 3 sides by water, San Francisco has limited space for new construction. Every available lot becomes a battleground between developers seeking maximum profit and residents demanding affordable housing. The result is a market where only the wealthy can afford to live, while everyone else is pushed further and further to the margins. Mental health plays a significant role in many stories. California's deinstitutionalization movement, which began decades ago with good intentions, left many people without adequate support systems. Combined with a shortage of mental health services and the stigma surrounding mental illness, many individuals found themselves cycling between hospitals, jails, and the streets. The opioid crisis has compounded these challenges. What often begins as legitimate medical treatment for chronic pain or injury can spiral into addiction when prescription medications become unavailable or too expensive. The streets become both refuge and prison for those struggling with substance dependency. Economic inequality in San Francisco has reached staggering proportions. While tech executives purchase multi-million-dollar homes, service workers sleep in cars if they're lucky enough to own one. The pandemic accelerated many of these trends. As restaurants closed, hotels emptied, and gig economy work dried up overnight. Government assistance, while available, often comes with waiting periods and bureaucratic hurdles that seem insurmountable to someone sleeping rough. The irony is stark. In a city that prides itself on innovation and problem solving, the most basic human need, shelter, remains unmet for thousands of residents. The algorithms that run our digital lives coexist with analog suffering on the sidewalks below the office towers where those very algorithms are created. When night falls and temperatures drop, many of San Francisco's homeless population seeks refuge wherever they can find it. The BART system, the city's rapid transit network, becomes an unofficial shelter for those with nowhere else to go. The underground stations provide protection from the wind and rain that frequently sweep across the city, though safety is never guaranteed. Down in the tunnels, the sound of trains creates a constant rumble that makes sleep nearly impossible. But for someone who has spent days exposed to the elements, even a hard bench feels like luxury. Security guards patrol the system, and while some turn a blind eye to those seeking shelter, others strictly enforce rules about loitering and sleeping in public spaces. James, a veteran who served 2 tours in Afghanistan, describes his nightly routine. I wait until the last train leaves, then find a corner where I can see anyone coming. You never really sleep. You just close your eyes and hope you wake up with your belongings intact. The hypervigilance that once kept him alive in combat now keeps him alert on the streets of his own country. Above ground, the city's parks become temporary refuges. Golden Gate Park, Dolores Park, and smaller neighborhood green spaces fill with tents and makeshift shelters after dark. Park benches become beds, though sleeping on them requires a delicate balance, literal and figurative, to avoid falling off during the night. The bathrooms in these parks serve as more than just restrooms. They become places for basic hygiene, washing clothes, and preparing simple meals. Park rangers and police periodically sweep through, dismantling camps and moving people along, but like water flowing around obstacles, the homeless population simply relocates to new areas. For women experiencing homelessness, the dangers multiply after dark. Sexual assault and robbery are constant threats. Many women travel in groups for protection or seek shelter in 24-hour businesses, McDonald's restaurants, hospital emergency rooms, or all-night laundromats where bright lights and security cameras provide some measure of safety. The city's shelter system exists, but it's overwhelmed and often unable to meet demand. Each evening, hundreds of people line up outside shelter facilities, hoping for a bed that may not be available. The lottery system that determines who gets shelter feels cruel in its randomness. Families separated, individuals turned away into the cold night. Even those lucky enough to secure shelter space find that it comes with its own challenges. Overcrowding, theft, violence, and rigid rules create an environment that some prefer to avoid. Many shelter residents describe feeling safer on the streets, where they have more control over their circumstances, even if those circumstances are harsh. The psychological toll of homelessness extends far beyond the physical discomfort of sleeping outdoors. It's the gradual erosion of dignity that comes from being treated as invisible by passers-by. It's the shame of asking for help and the frustration of being denied services due to technicalities or lack of space. Mental health issues, whether pre-existing or developed as a result of street life, often go untreated. Depression becomes a constant companion when every day is focused on basic survival. Anxiety spikes when faced with the uncertainty of where the next meal will come from or where it will be safe to sleep. Without access to showers, clean clothes, or basic grooming supplies, maintaining the appearance necessary for job interviews or social services appointments becomes nearly impossible. The social isolation is perhaps the most devastating aspect. Relationships with
one
family
medical
and friends
emergency
strain away from losing
under
their
the
housing.
pressure of homelessness.
They call us to
Some
respond
people
with
lose
empathy
touch with loved ones
than
due to
judgment,
shame,
with
while
solutions
others
rather than blame.
exhaust
San
their support
Francisco,
networks through
the city by the
repeated
bay,
requests for help.
continues
The
to
homeless
grapple with
community
the contradictions of prosperity and poverty, existing side by side. The Golden Gate Bridge still stands as a symbol of possibility, but for thousands of residents, that possibility feels distant and unattainable. The innovative spirit that built Silicon Valley and transformed San Francisco into a global technology center has yet to fully address the homelessness crisis. Perhaps the same creativity and resources that revolutionized communication and commerce can be applied to ensuring that everyone has a place to call home. As fog rolls in from the Pacific Ocean each evening, it blankets both the mansions of Pacific Heights, the tent encampments in the park. It reminds us that we all share the same sky, breathe the same air, and deserve the same fundamental human dignity. The story of homelessness in San Francisco is not just about one city or one crisis. It's a mirror reflecting the values, priorities, and challenges of our society as a whole. How we respond to those most vulnerable among us defines who we are as a community and as human beings. Walking the streets of San Francisco today, we have a choice. We can continue to look away, to hurry past the suffering as if it doesn't exist. Or we can pause, listen, and recognize that addressing homelessness requires all of us, not just government programs or nonprofit organizations, but individual citizens willing to see the humanity in everyone. The solutions exist, but they require political will, financial investment, and most importantly, a collective commitment to the principle that housing is a human right. Until then, the shadows beneath the Golden Gate Bridge will continue to shelter those whom our society has failed, and the city of innovation will remain a city divided.